Hello, my name is Mr. Henderson, and I am the 6th grade math teacher here at Titan Academy. I'm going to spend a little time and tell you about my process of being in the military and what that was like. At age 18, after I graduated high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do for my career, anything. My friends were going to college, and I thought, since they're going, I'm going to go to college because that's the thing to do. So I spent a semester in college and quickly figured out that right now this is not for me. For one, I was away from home for the first time. Two, it was real expensive. I had no one to help me pay for college. And three, I just really wasn't enjoying it. I had no direction of which way I wanted to go as far as what career I wanted to pursue. So after a semester, I dropped out of college and I went straight to work. I thought, if I'm not going to go to school, I'm just going to make some money and everything will be fine. So while I was working at my job, I got to know a guy, and one day he was like, "Hey, do you ever think about joining the Navy?" And I always wanted to join the Navy. My grandfather was in the Navy. I watched Top Gun when I was little, and I fell in love with the aircraft, the planes in Top Gun. I thought they were so cool. So I was like, oh, I really, really would enjoy working on planes. So I said, yeah, let's do it. So before I know, me and him, we go talk to a recruiter. When we talk to a recruiter, he tells us everything we want to hear. He tells us, yeah, it's great. You can do this, you can do that. And they're going to tell you anything you want to hear because that's their job. They want you to be in the military. They have a quota to meet. And so they're going to make sure that whoever they talk to, they're going to do all they can to get them into the military. Okay? So it was all go for me. I didn't care what he said. I was ready to go into the Navy. Okay? So we said, yeah, sign us up. Let's go. He says, all right. So next thing I know, it's about two or 3 weeks later, I get a phone call, and it's like, okay, well, we need to head to Dallas, and we need to go start this process of getting you into the Navy. So we go to this big building in downtown Dallas called MEPS. MEPS stands for the Military Entrance Process, okay? So when we get there, they do all this stuff. They check your health. They make sure you're physically fit, good to go. They do fingerprints. They get you all in the system pretty much. And then they start talking about, okay, well, since you're here, what interests you? What kind of job would you like? Okay. And so I had some couple ideas. And before I got to pick my job, I had to take what's called the ASVAB test. And the ASVAB test just kind of puts you in a spot to, if you score well enough, you can pick certain jobs, and you score really good, you can pick any job you want to. Okay, so fortunately, I did really good actually, and the guy that was signing me up, he was like, okay, well, you can choose this, and this, and he was really, really, really wanting me to go on nuclear submarines, and I was like, oh, that's not for me. I don't want to be on a submarine. I really want to work on airplanes. That's my thing. I want to work on airplanes. And he was like, okay. So he writes this stuff down, and I'm sitting there. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just hoping it's fast, But yeah, so he signs up, okay, you can do that. So he signs me up to work on airplanes. Okay, I didn't know what kind of airplanes I was going to work on. Anything from fighter jets to bombers to helicopters to anything. Okay. But that was the MEPS process. Okay. After that, I took the ASVAB. I signed up for my job, and then I had to get sworn in. Okay, that's where you have to raise your right hand and say that you will defend your country no matter what. Okay. After that, you are in the military. Okay. So I was officially in the Navy after I did that. About a couple weeks later, it was time to go to boot camp. So me and my friend, we get on an airplane and we head to Great Lakes, which is in Illinois, right outside of Chicago. Okay, that's where I spent 3 months in boot camp. The boot camp experience was different. Okay, I know we go in thinking, oh, they're going to yell at you and all this stuff, and it is really hard. It's really difficult. There's a lot of physical activities that you have to do. You have to do a lot of push-ups, a lot of running, a lot of things that sometimes don't make sense. If one person messes up, we all mess up. So we all have to pay for that one person. So in a way, it was kind of good because we all got to be a group, and we all became this team. In boot camp, we were this team together, this division. Boot camp lasted about 3 months, And after graduating boot camp, it was time to go to my school to learn about working on airplanes. I went to Pensacola, Florida. Depends on what job you pick and what you want to do, depends on where you go. Some people stayed there in Great Lakes and went to school there. Some people went to, I think, Mississippi and went to school there. So it just depends on what you want to do in the Navy, so what you're going to go learn. I wanted to work on planes, so they sent me to Pensacola, Florida. And I spent about a month there taking classes and just doing normal things, living on base, and just meeting people, hanging out, going to school, somebody kind of like what you would experience in college, but you're still in the military. Got to dress up, you got to have your uniform on, all these things. After I was done with that school, it was time for me to go to my duty station. Now, at this time, I didn't know what I was going to work on, and after I got done with school, they let you know, hey, this is what you're finally going to do. So sure enough, I got this letter saying, hey, you're going to go work on F-14s. If you don't know, those are kind of planes that were in Top Gun, and that was my favorite plane that I loved. So it was kind of cool how that worked out. So next thing I know, I'm packing up all my stuff. I go back home for a little while, and I pack up all my stuff, and I'm moving to Virginia Beach, Virginia. That's where my duty station is. That's where these planes are stationed that I'm going to work on, okay? And that place is called Oceana Naval Air Station. That's where I spent the majority of my time. That was my job. After getting to Virginia Beach, it's just like a normal job when you're in the Navy. You have a place that you live. I had an apartment, and I would go to work every day just like I do here. I come to work, and then when I was done, I would go home, and it's just like normal. Okay, you go home and just do what you enjoy to do. Just a normal life. But you're always required to be there for whatever branch you're in. So if they need you at 12 o'clock at night, you better have your phone ready, okay? And if they call you, you got to go in, you got to start working again. So it just depends on what your job is and what you do and how much you work, I guess you could say. So I spent about 4 years in Virginia Beach, and that was my contract, was 4 years in the Navy. Time came for me to re-enlist, and I didn't. I was ready to go home. I miss being home. I didn't think the Navy was for me just because I'd done it for 4 years, and I was kind of tired. I'm just going to be honest. I was kind of tired of people telling me, hey, I had to be here at this time, and I couldn't go here because it's too far from where you're stationed and things like that. Always had to ask permission to go different places, okay? Looking back on it, though, I wish I would have stayed in. I wish I would have continued my career and at least retired, because once you spend 20 years in the military, you can retire from the military. Being at the age that I was, after 20 years, I could have retired around 40, 41. So like what I am now, I would have been retired and I would have been good to go. But you know what? It is what it is, and I'm glad that I'm a teacher now. But looking back on it, I wish I would have stayed in the Navy. The things that I enjoyed about the Navy: one, working on airplanes. I absolutely loved working on airplanes. I loved being around the planes. I loved just being part of that. I got to spend a lot of time in the aircraft carrier, saw a lot of cool things, did a lot of cool things, things that I would never have experienced at all if I was never in the Navy. I could sit down and tell you story after story after story about just cool things that I've done. But looking back on it, it was cool and everything, but I'm glad where my life took me now. I'm glad where I am. Another good thing in the Navy is the pay was good, okay? They pay you just like you would a normal job. And if you live off base, they also pay you to live off base sometimes. So basically your rent's paid for. It's called, what do they call it? Housing allowance. That's what it was. Okay, so every month I got my base pay of doing my job plus a housing allowance to pay for the house that I lived in. Another good thing I liked about the Navy is the camaraderie. I have never been a part of a group of guys or men and women, really, that you just come together and you just feel like you're part of a team, okay? You feel like you have some brothers and sisters, and just everybody is for everybody. They're there to help you out no matter what. I love that part, and that's what I missed about being in the Navy. So if you are thinking about going into the military, take in consideration what benefits it has for you. It paid for my college. I used the GI Bill to go to school after I got out and got my teaching degree, and now I'm here. Okay, so just think about it, and if that's for you, then I would say go for it. Okay, now you might have to move away from home, all those things, which is okay. But yeah, that was my time in the Navy. And I hope if you have any questions, you can always ask me. And anyway, all right, I appreciate your time. Thank you.